2013 was a truly stellar year for gaming, filled with grandiose and generation-defining titles like Bioshock Infinite, Last of Us, GTA 5 and Metal Gear Revengeance. It left audiences and critics praising it alike, and everyone had themselves a jolly good time. Or that's at the very least what I imagine it must have been like. Back in the good old days of 2013, I didn't own a PC, or an Xbox or PlayStation, or, not very surprisingly, not even a Wii U. No, my dear viewers, I owned every 9-year-old's favorite gaming setup, a first edition iPad. And although I might not have been able to play these massive AAA games, I was honestly more than satisfied. But still, in contrast to the grandiose and colourful lineup of the rest of the market, the mobile scene was pretty dry this year. Rovio was still working hard on the next Heroes installment, and many of the other games didn't really leave an impact on me. But then, on the 11th of July, that all changed. From the pits of mindless shovelware and corporate cash grabs, a diamond emerged. Tiny Thief, a medieval point-and-click adventure game with a beautiful art style and incredible charm. And although while playing the demo I hadn't realized it yet, I just downloaded possibly my favorite game of all time. A game that, sadly in the current day, can't be played anymore. Like I just mentioned, Tiny Thief is a linear stealth-based point-and-click adventure game. This means that there is a predetermined path through each level where you receive an item that you use to find another until you reach the goal. The challenge coming from the fact that if you're spotted, you have to play the level over again. Although it sounds simple, it is in this restricted formula that the game shines. Over its 30 beautifully distinct and colourful levels, the game slowly ramps up its difficulty, requiring the player to come up with increasingly absurd answers to the game's problems, with locations ranging from a fish market to a pirate ship, a medieval raid to an undead funfair, a giant robot and even a children-to-monster slave factory. All levels open up with a simple cartoon. These cartoons provide a quick backstory to show the setup for the level, as none of the characters speak. After this, the game presents you with your 3 objectives. Like many early mobile games, Tiny Thief works with a star system, awarding you for how well you did in a level. For your first star, you must complete the main objective of the level, but the second and third require a bit more effort. For the second star, you must find Tiny Thief's pet ferret hidden in the level. At first this is easy, but as the levels grow in size and complexity, the chance of missing the little animal grows. For the last star, you must find all the optional hidden treasures in the level. If you however can't manage to solve one of the puzzles, the game does provide you with a hint book that you can use from time to time to help figure it out. These treasures are, however, where the game in my opinion gets a lot of its charm. These treasures are often obtained by interacting with the background, using items in a new way, or returning to an earlier part of the level. The game also has a story, although the premise is very basic. Our hero, Barrett, is a Robin Hood type who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. But one day, while stealing around the castle, he notices a princess and falls in love. However, then out of nowhere the princess gets captured by a black knight. You chase after him and eventually find him with a giant octopus holding the princess captive. Tiny Thief was developed by a small Barcelona-based studio named 5Ams. It was founded in 2010 by Luis Succes and co-founded by Max Bellivacqua, who is also its CEO. Tiny Thief was the first game the studio created, and so needed a publisher. The publisher was a quite small and obscure company called Rovio. Yeah, the Angry Birds Rovio. While working on the next game, Rovio decided to start a project called Rovio Stars, where they would publish promising games from third-party developers to fill up their lineup. Tiny Thief was the second game to be released in the program, right behind Icebreaker, a Viking voyage. A game that's so good in its own right, but is expensive, and still on the App Store, so maybe next time. Tiny Thief was then released on July 11, 2013 to a price of around €3 for mobile devices and €14 on Steam. Wow, that's quite a difference. Well, I mean, I'm sure it has new features. No, just high quality graphics and other improvements to make the game experience as smooth as possible. Well, that's a bit scummy, especially because apparently the game only stayed at this price for 1 week before dropping with the holiday sale after, and after that just costing €5. Either way, the game was released to an overwhelmingly positive response. So positive in fact, that they managed to bring the game to the Wii U, and even managed to get into a Nintendo Direct. However, people did start to mention that the game was lacking a bit in content, and challenging content at that. The latter of these wishes would later be answered in the game's DLC, Bewitched. This was a new paid chapter set in a magical frontier, inhabited by wizards, dragons, magical salesmen, Hogwarts rejects, and, again, child slavery. Honestly, I wasn't really sure what to say about this chapter when I started writing the script, because my opinions on it are very mixed. On the one hand, you have, in my honest opinion, a chapter filled with probably the best and most creative levels in the entire game. Like the level with the giant cooking pot, that you have to progressively heat up to the point where it can't take it anymore and its lid shoots off on a geyser of soup, launching you into the stratosphere. I just love that level. You can just tell how much fun the developers had creating the level and coming up with all the little ideas to incorporate the little stand. Just like in the Undead Carnival, probably my favorite level in the entire game. But then on the other hand, the chapter has sections, and in my opinion even an entire level, that just feels so slow and uninteresting. The level I'm referring to being the first one of the bunch, Trick or Treat, and honestly that's just such a shame, because the level itself has some fun ideas, transforming you into a lava that slowly builds itself up to a butterfly, and encountering the weird forest filled with magic, collecting ingredients for a magical potion. But it's not the idea itself that I have the problem with, it's the way the entire level fits together. You have to follow a wizard into a building. And oh, for the few people that actually cared about the story, in short. The king got turned into a blue crystal, an idea Toby Fox would shamelessly steal 8 years later, and because of you desperately wanting a relationship with his daughter, you go to save him. Don't ask me from what though, I'm not sure the game itself even knows that. The wizard just puts him there, in his castle, without any further context. Truly, a giga Chad. But now with you being caught up, back again to the meaningless complaining about the children's mobile game. So, you need to follow the wizard, but he fed the key to the door to a living jack-o'-lantern. So far so good. To retrieve it, you must bring back ingredients to these wizard students, so they can make candy out of it to make the pumpkin, inflate and explode, let's say. These ingredients are hidden across the level, and you have to get turned into a lava or dip yourself in monster energy to obtain them. And here's in my opinion where the problem lies. These just aren't fun. The lava spell just limits your options and forces you to take a very obvious path and transform into a butterfly. Same thing with the pond. Once you step in, you will start to glow and you have a certain time limit to use it. These just feel very superficial and tool-like. As a contrast, take the pod level I just praised. This level 2 has a very clear goal, but lets you experiment with all the little different things on the stand, and doesn't punish this experimentation. Like in our level, where you have to take an annoying long road back to the pond if you don't do exactly what the game wants in the time limit. Same thing with being a butterfly. The level just also isn't fun on repeat playthroughs. You now know how annoying it is to make a single mistake, so you just play exactly how intended without experimenting or going off the beaten path. I played the entire game for this review and I just kept on delaying playing this DLC just because I had to start with this level. I think the best way to have made the level more fun would have been to A. merge the ideas of the pond and lava together, and B. give the lava or butterfly more function to interact with the environment to encourage experimentation without the fear of just losing progress. Oh, and on the other levels, the slave factory is fun, but it's also kind of basic, with you mainly have to produce candy in the shape of certain objects. But this level's idea is just so incredibly interesting that nothing can hurt my opinion on it. A solid child slavery out of 10. now we finally have come to the main part of this video. After hearing me talk about some of it, you might think, damn mate, that sure sounds like one of the games ever made, how can I play it? And to that I say, did you even read the title of this video? And I mean, great question my dear viewer. The answer to that delightful question is not. You cannot. And neither can I. Or anyone for that matter. Or, well, that isn't true either, but for now I'll pretend that it's not. That makes my life a bit easier, and God knows I'll do anything for that. But back on track. The reason you can't play this game anymore is because it was removed from all digital storefronts. Like some of you might know, a few years back there was a massive mobile game purge where a lot of classic and nostalgia games were swept from the App Store. Games like Angry Birds, Amazing Alex, Angry Birds but in a car, Retry, Angry Birds but in space, Angry Birds but epic, you get the point. However, all these games have something in common, namely, and you guessed it, their owner is Rovio. Many of these games were making Rovio minuscule if any revenue, and their upkeep for newer software updates wasn't worth the cost anymore. Sadly, Tiny Thief 2 was one of these discontinued and delisted games. I presume this cost was the same reason it was removed from the Steam and Wii U eShop respectively. And without a physical copy, there was no way to play it. Slowly its name got tarnished by copycats trying to capitalize on its former success, like Mika's Treasure 2 or Tiny Thief on Steam. My little childhood darling slowly shriveling up and never to be heard of again. Or at least, that's how I viewed it for years. Remember when I told you we were actually going to pretend that there was no way? Well, pretending in self-pity is over, because there actually are two ways you can still in fact play this little gem. So let's get into that. Numero uno. You own it. Ah yes, what a great suggestion. How about you just own the discontinued game, that sure would help. Let me just play the game I don't own. However, dear viewer of mine, that's just what we would call a skill issue, because yours really does own the game. On a beat up iPad no less, I know, big flex. There are however issues with this method, besides the obvious glaring one. Because the game got discontinued, your device too has to be stuck on a software version that still supports the game. And maybe if you own it on a PC you might not have the same issue, but having to bring out an old metal or plastic brick every time you want to boot up a mildly nostalgic game for 2 minutes before realizing you played the levels 200 times already and just mainly like the memories more than actually having to play, that might not be ideal. So, introducing method 2, piracy. Ah yes, good old crime. Quite ironic for a game called Tiny Thief that the only real way to still get a copy is piracy, but hey, if it works, it works. I decided as an absolute PC degenerate who got scared downloading 7-zip to try it out in BlueStacks, a way to play mobile games on Windows, and I can proudly say, it's alright. It's not amazing, the game tends to crash a bit, but I'm not qualified enough to say that's the fault of the APK I downloaded or my own. I'm not going to explain or leave any links in this video because again, no clue what I'm doing, but if you are interested, just search Tiny Thief APK on YouTube or just watch the video by Aiden. I would call it a shoutout, but with 2 subscribers to my name, that's debatable at best. Also, if you'd just like to see the game, someone called Dong Hong Tree
Dũng Hồ Chí
posted a full silent playthrough of it on his YouTube, so go check him out as well. So, like we just discussed, buying Tiny Thief sadly isn't really an option anymore. But that doesn't mean we are completely out of luck, because in 2016 something fresh and new dropped right into our little grubby gamer hands. Love You 2 Bits, a true spiritual successor with art style and all. Created by Alike Studio and Patty, both parties having previously worked on Tiny Thief, the game follows the space knight boy Cosmo on his way to save his robot girlfriend Nova after a mad pink T-Rex professor called Dr. Eros shot his ship, destroying Nova in the process, leaving Cosmo without bitches. Truly sad. But to be honest, even though the game's story is definitely leagues above what Tiny Thief told, I didn't really care that much and so won't be discussing it in depth. That can however not be said about the gameplay itself, because god damn that's good. The core gameplay is quite similar to its predecessor. Complete a point-and-click puzzle to find the level's main goal, in this case Nova's parts, and along the way try to find the hidden bonus items. Also, side note, I found it quite odd that the game didn't see the return of the ferret from the original, seeing as Cosmo has his own cute pet in the form of the Turtleian, who doesn't really have a role in the game, which might kinda make me question why it was included in the first place, but alas.
Where this game however outshines Tiny Thief in my opinion
Is in the ideas behind its levels. Love You to Bits takes place in a very futuristic and advanced setting compared to the Middle Ages of Tiny Thief, allowing it to create much more wacky levels. To better explain, I'll give you a few highlights. For instance, we have time travel, time warps, cloning machines, SCP facilities, robot nightclubs, zombie infested malls, comic book panels, interactive arcades, a hotel inside the guts of a living flying worm, a mutant, just kidding, death. Hey look, Minecraft. But do you see what I mean when I say this game takes its ideas to a whole new level? Like, what did Tiny Thief have? Like, child slavery? We have Slenderman drowning you the alive.
By the way, no, I don't know why I keep referencing child slavery or why 5ants put it in their game, but sure. As an educated viewer, however,
You might be asking yourself, well, with all the praise I give Love You to Bits, why I still think Tiny Thief is a better game overall. Well, I'm not certain either. One part of it is definitely nostalgia, but I do think there's another factor at play. Its length. When you want to play a mobile game, you often don't want to have to spend hours at a time playing the game. You want to be able to pick it up and just go. Love You to Bits does it to an extent, but many of its levels can take quite a long time to complete. Looking on YouTube, the average of a level is about 7 minutes. And to be fair, that's great. More playtime and more difficulty were things I wished for with Tiny Thief. So what is my issue with this? Well, I mentioned that I decided to play the entirety of Tiny Thief in this review, and although at the end I was a bit burned out, I'm glad I did it. I wanted to do the same with Love You to Bits, but having played the game once before, I just didn't have the motivation to finish it.
a lot of the levels just drag on a bit too long for my liking.
And with no way to save in the level, quitting would just mean having to do it all over again. Maybe just losing the childlike enthusiasm to keep playing, but when I revisited both games, Tiny Thief just got me so much more invested in the actual world of the game than Love You to Bits, despite having less screens per level, possibly a negative side effect of the completely individual levels. Except oddly enough the zombie mall. Just like in the previously praised cooking pot level, I just love the idea, and it's possibly one of the only levels in the game I might occasionally play, even though I've completed it dozens of times already. And hey, to be completely honest, it's also a bit odd to complain that a puzzle game has the same levels on a second playthrough, so maybe it's just me. Either way, I can most definitely recommend Love You to Bits to you, and if you've once played Tiny Thief and by some miracle never heard of this game, although it's €5 price tag, it's still practically a no-brainer. At last, here we are. Although I could ramble on about these games, like the fact that Tiny Thief has an amazing soundtrack, or the fact that Allied Studio made some other games in the Tiny Thief art style, I don't think I will. Tiny Thief is a beautiful little game. Not flawless, I admit, but amazing for its time and godlike to what you find nowadays. I would love for Rovio to bring back these games so it could be enjoyed by many more people, something I planned from the start to say in this closing chapter. But honestly, after researching and writing the script, I don't know if I still completely stand behind that. Something about just leaving this game be, remaining in the hearts of people that played it instead of exposing it to the modern gaming landscape of microtransactions and nostalgia baiting. Rovio hasn't forgotten about it, seeing the fact that they posted the soundtrack on their YouTube channel last year, so why should we? An adorable little discontinued masterpiece of dragons, robots, kings and wizards, a memory that not even the greatest thief could steal.
Hey everyone, Succes here. Thank you for watching my video. I've never really made a video essay, nor a real YouTube video for that matter, so I hope that whoever might be watching this video enjoyed it. I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time now, but it was more a video I hoped someone else would make than that I actually planned to make it myself. At first I wanted to review the game level by level, but I realized it wasn't really feasible. Both because it was incredibly boring and because I just didn't have enough to say to warrant such an approach. I'm quite happy with the way it turned out, but any feedback is appreciated. Either way, thanks again for watching and maybe see you next time again.
Or so you thought. Welcome to a secret last part of this video. Or not really secret, but more post-credit. After recording everything up to now and editing everything down, I realized there were a few things I left out, and considering the about a year and a half it took to make this video from idea to finished product, I think it's better to add them in here instead of having to make a follow-up. I mentioned Tiny Thief having 6 chapters, and although that is true, there's apparently also a removed tutorial called First Lessons. For some reason, I didn't remember that it existed while writing the script and felt kinda forced to just cram it in somewhere, so here we are. The tutorial is quite basic, who would have thought, and introduces the player to the mechanics of interacting, stealth, finding your ferret and looking for treasures. These levels reuse some assets of the main game, mainly the wall level with the butterflies, but also feature some original sprites like this honey, but most importantly some sweet lore. The lore is as deep as a puddle, but still it's something. Another unused piece of content was a level named A Cheesy Plan. This level used to be the very first level of chapter 1, but instead of getting replaced with Medieval Burger, or in the early versions A Starving Friend, it was swapped out for a Key for Freedom, probably to repurpose the otherwise unused assets of the tutorial I just mentioned. With this Medieval Burger becoming the very first level instead. But with that said, let's take a look at what we missed out on. It starts with Barrett and his ferret wandering the streets until the smell of cheese leads him to a windmill. In the level, you have to take a piece of rotting cheese and put it behind the guard to make him gag and run off screen. We truly missed out on this amazing animation. After that, you can knock the fruits from the juggling jester's hand, who is reused in the Queen's Castle, and create a cake a la Minecraft. Overall, a pretty good starting level. But with it being the starting level, Medieval Burger had to be a bit more advanced. So, in the beta called A Starving Friend, in the level, the butcher isn't asleep, but rather awake, and trying to keep a dog awake from eating his sausage. I mean his hanging sausage. You know what I mean. By dropping the sausage and hiding in a barrel, the dog snatches the meat and runs off with the butcher chasing him, allowing you to take the burger and the poor musician's loot, a scene that in this final build would be used in the butterfly jar level. To be honest, I'm not really sure why they scrapped First Lessons and reworked these levels. The banner for A Rumbling Stomach even still shows the butcher and his dog, although they don't appear anymore. At last, there's also some concept art of some missing level and some original versions of existing levels. I'll show the Candy Store and Castle Siege on screen respectively right now, since I don't really have a lot to say on them. Back on topic, we'll take a glance at the completely scrapped level. It shows a market with I'd say a baker or fruit stand, a fish stand, a grocer, a butcher and a magic potion salesman. The Steam post by the developers described it as a market landscape, a nice sketch of the Tiny Thief world. The arrows also point to a path leading across the pillars in the back with a rope bridge. If I had to guess, I'd either be used one big level that could split into little levels like the fish market and Magic Bazaar in the DLC, or was it just a prototype? If any of you have an idea what could have been, please leave it in the comments, because I'd be quite interested in some more views in this sketch. But besides a handful of very small things, that's everything I could find on Tiny Thief. I hope I've been able to do this game justice in the way that I covered it, and that even if you'd never heard of it before, you enjoyed my analysis nonetheless. I plan on making some more video essays on interesting old mobile games or whatever I feel like doing in the future, so I'd love if you'd stick around. But that's all for me. Have a wonderful day.